Hey everyone, this is Christianity, and welcome to the, revamp of Return to Writing. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video talking about Gen AI and in writing and publishing, I want to sort of revamp this series and turn it into something I can use to kind of teach in a way. I am in no way, shape, or form a teacher. I am just someone who is a small author themselves. I have 2 published books and working on multiple other books. And I know the struggles that come with self-publishing, especially as someone who can only afford to really do things yourself. So why am I doing this? As I said in the video about writing and Gen AI, I am revamping this series to sort of share what I know from my own experience in writing and publishing, especially self-publishing, because a lot of us don't have either the money to, say, get professional editors, professional cover designers, professional illustrators, formatters, all of that. Or even ISBNs, because hi, I do use free ISBNs. Don't be afraid to use free ISBNs. It's like they are there for a reason. They are a good place to start if you can't afford one. Especially if you live in the US, because in the US you have to pay for them. In certain places you don't. I think Canada you don't have to pay for ISBNs. There they are free, and I think there's a discount on them in the UK, but again, don't be afraid to use free ISBNs. But back to what I was saying. Like, I know how difficult it can be, especially starting out. Because aside from not being able to afford much to, well, create these books, to create these stories, and to really get them out there, a lot of us don't have the luxury of the wait. And when I say that, I mean like the luxury to wait to find, blanking on words, but we don't have the luxury of the wait to find an agent, a literary agent. That's the word I was looking for. And then for that agent to find a publisher, or the wait to find a publisher in general that will take on non-agented queries and submissions. Because while they are few and far between, there are some publishers out there that will accept unagented, trying to think of the best way to word this, but there are some that will accept manuscripts without the backing of an agent. There you go. But in that video, I mentioned some recent drama regarding some authors that have used AI to either publish, edit, and all of that, especially some of that being found in ARC copies and just in physical copies in general. And there has definitely been a rise of AI authors, in a sense. It's kind of like AI artists. They type in a prompt, let it generate the whole story for them, and whether they do or don't edit, I don't completely know, but a lot of them just publish it. They generate a cover to go with it, and they publish it. Like, there is a rise of that, and I want to do the series to sort of revamp Return to Writing, to share what I have learned along the way, to sort of do something similar to what I'm doing on my art channel, Shorter Than the Easel, with my series Anyone Can Art, where I am teaching things I have learned in my years of being an artist. Because while I'm not an art teacher, I do want to share that you can learn these things. Like art, writing and publishing is a culmination of skills anyone can learn. And that's why I am doing this. So I want to be like, yeah, like, I clearly am in the same boat as a lot of self-publishing authors. I don't have the money to get all this professional stuff to aid me in the publishing of my books. But that's not stopping me from publishing the books and getting them out there. And I'm doing that without the use of generative AI and AI in general, outside of like spell check. So to start this off, let's talk about, well, just writing the story, because I'm coming up with the story, because, as I said, even in these past few years, there's been a rise of people purely using AI to not just create the premise of the story, but also to write the story for them and to write the whole book and the covers and all of that. And I'm doing this to show that you do not need that. So I'm creating the story while there are plenty of books and videos talking about how you can write a story. Let's start with the creation of the idea. Because, hi, if you're going to use generative AI, if you can come up with a prompt, you don't need to fish it. You don't need to feed it to the generator. You can just take the prompt you were going to type in and create something based off of that. Because that is essentially what writing is. That is what creating is. You are building something off of this initial premise. So instead of feeding that thought, that little inkling of an idea to a machine, to then bash a bunch of stolen ideas together, even though technically you could argue that no idea is completely original, at the same time, those ideas weren't fed to a machine to then literally be ripped apart and then thrown together. Instead of feeding that idea to the machine, write it down. Write it down and start just jotting down notes. You don't even need to like start actually writing the story. Take that idea, write it down, and just start jotting down notes, outlining, being like, okay, what are some things that this idea makes me think of? Like recently, I was watching a video that got me back in the whole Breaking the Magician's Code rabbit hole. And it got me thinking of an interesting idea for a horror story because, hi, I write a combination of horror and fantasy. I have yet to really combine the two. Okay, technically in Opposing Forces, I'm kind of combining the two, but I do have Dark Pine Tales of Terror, which is purely horror. It's more of like B horror, and it's like urban legend based. And I do have a short story that is also a horror story over on Itch.io. But Breaking the Magician's Code got me thinking of an idea for sort of like a B horror 80s like slasher film kind of vibe, where it's just like cheesy, campy, and fun, but the killer is a magician, and it's like maybe there's like a little actual magic mixed in, and it's like it got me thinking of like a whole premise to work with. Like I even wrote down a post-it. I don't remember where I put it, but yes, haha, post-it, post-it. What do I have behind that? Oh, that's an idea for a game, but I wrote it down. I started jotting it down. Yes, it's messy handwriting, but it was a quick note. It's like you can do that. Write it on post-its. Write it in a notebook. But you can build off of that. Like I still don't know necessarily how the story will start, but I can think of some ideas of what could start it. Like maybe it's a this magician is part of a traveling show. Maybe it's his own traveling show. Maybe a kid wants to learn how to do magic and finds this mysterious book just like in like the depths of an old library that somehow just like summons this magician who just happens to be evil and actually like this dark magician kind of character. But just based off that one idea of just like a campy 80s like horror movie where this magician is the killer, already I'm coming up with these ideas. So start with that premise, that general idea, that general prompt, because prompts aren't an AI only thing. Prompts are literally something you were given in a writing class. I'm sure if you had an English class at any point in your life, there's a good chance you have been given a prompt to write off of. So start with that and build off of it. And again, you can start with just basic notes. You don't need to start writing a whole essay, but you can start with that. And if you don't know where to start with the prompt or idea, let's begin with something simple. Pick a genre. What genres do you like? What do you really get drawn to? Do you like horror? Do you like fantasy? Do you like sci-fi? Do you like just action adventure? Start with that. What do you like? Then from there, simple exercise. Look around the room. Look around the room, randomly pick something. Now take that genre, take that random thing you just landed on, and jot down some ideas. Like, what are some just basic general ideas you can come up with? It doesn't have to be like a full-fledged like plot synopsis. Just let's say I choose horror and I look around the room. I just go clown bear plushie. What ideas can I come up with for this? And just start jotting down just random thoughts like maybe possessed toy, maybe blind box of horror, because I mean, this was a blind box plushie. But you can come up with like a whole bunch of things. It's like maybe this was just like a thrifted item that just happens to be haunted. Or maybe it's like an alien that was just like it landed on the planet. I don't know. Something like that. You can come up with anything. Like it doesn't even necessarily have to actually be about the item. Like you can come up with ideas of just like these like little circus creatures that have landed on it, sort of like Killer Clowns from Outer Space vibes. And they're like little gremlins and they're up to no good, like things like that. And it could be like a B horror, because even genres have subgenres. Like horror doesn't have to be like completely serious. It doesn't have to be dark and gritty. You can have B horror. You can have slashers. You can have even within slasher, you have like different levels of slasher films. Like you can have the campy, like 80s style slasher films. You can have like the more like modern day, like serious, dark, gritty slasher films. It's like, but even with fantasy, it's like you go like full high fantasy. You can have just like more just like urban fantasy. I think what was it, KDP? One of their genres for fantasy instead of urban fantasy. Actually, I think urban fantasy is an option, but there's magical realism, where it's not quite urban, but it's just like because urban is more like modern fantasy, like fantasy in a modern setting. But then magical realism would be like, oh, setting setting in like a noir like 50s time period and being like, oh, there's all this magic and stuff. And again, just pick a genre, pick something in your room or something in your surroundings, and start jotting down ideas. Also, sometimes titles will pop to your head before any plot idea can come to your head. Like just think of like a cool like name for a story, because that could be like actually something that I've already named a short story that I'm writing. For this, I could easily just use the title I'm using for a completely different story that I'm calling The Crying Clown. And that story is about, you see, a story I'm using that title for. It's supposed to be like Goosebumps style horror, but it's based off of the amount of times I used to go antiquing with my family, and just about every antique shop would just have a wall of sad clown portraits. Like, I based a whole story off of that I need to actually completely replan because I originally wanted to do wasn't working out and I kind of got stuck, but that's an issue for me to deal with. But maybe think of title ideas, like what would be a cool like movie title for this? Or just when in doubt, different types of generators, because AI generators are not the only generators out there. Long before AI generators, there were word generators, which is literally just a combination, a list of words that would just combine random words together. And even then, I would just write down results that sounded cool and take bits and pieces from those to mash them together. And then I would have an idea from that. Like, literally. Just, you could do that. You could take, like, if you have books around you at the moment, look at the titles. mash those together. What sounds like it'd be a cool combo. Or even better yet, just mash stories together to start out. Be like, okay, this story and this story sound like they'd be cool together. Where would I go with that? Because, like, even on this channel, while I have. Did I private the video? I either privated or deleted it. But actually, it might still be up. I don't remember. But one of my old Ban Ban videos, where I was like reimagining Ban Ban, the first game, not the rest of the series, which is why it got really annoying in the comments because everyone was going purely off. They just ignored what I said in the video, even though I was fully reimagining it, and they got mad that I turned Jumbo Josh into a bear, and it was a whole thing. But reimagining, take the premise and see where you would go with it. Because with my take on Ban Ban 1, just like little details from it, not even necessarily the actual full concept, just little things. And then the opening line of, if for a parent looking for a lost child, time is a delicate matter. Because the games never really actually expand on that, but that text alone gave me an idea to work with. And then I came up with my whole own just idea of these like security toys. They're sort of like for real friends meets like Furby, and just like the daycare. In my case, it would be like a daycare situation where these toys are placed, and it's a branch that is taken over by this company and sort of used as like the test location, like the first real location to use these characters and these toys to sort of prove that they can do what they do, and that is protect these children. And it became like a whole thing. And I created my own story on it. And I have actually started revamping it to potentially make it to an actual game, but that again, I am my own developer, I am my own team in every sense of the word. Everything will take forever to do. But the whole point of me talking about that is the fact that, again, take things that sound like they could do well together and reimagine them. Hopefully, this can help someone out there. This is just the first video. I will be talking more about things like formatting, cover design, and all of that later on in the series. This isn't going to be going by like episode numbers. This is going to be going by the topics within them. So hopefully, for a start, this is a good introduction to at least help to some degree. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below on what you would like to see me talk about, especially in self-publishing and writing in general. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.